Welcome to Songward.com's exclusive artist interview series, One-on-One. I'm your host, David Elliott Johnson, and I recently had the great honor of interviewing artist and songwriter John Waite. His career has spanned over more than 3 decades. His vocal styling has defined such iconic and classic bands such as The Babies and arena rock chart toppers Bad English. His solo career and musical achievements have identified him amongst the who's who of pop music history, with his early MTV hit Change and the undeniable 80s compilation staple Missing You. I was able to catch up with John on a day off the road from promoting his newest album release, Rough and Tumble. So join me as I get a peek into the wit and wisdom of legendary musical artist John Waite.
Is this the right number?
Yes, you did, John. This is David Johnson with Songward. How are you?
David, how you doing? I'm a bit early. Is it all right, or should I ring back?
No, this is good.
Okay. I just have nothing to do. I was here in a shopping mall, and I just thought, well, you might be up for it. So here I am.
I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's taken a couple days to get to this.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm sure it's nice to be back home off the road for a couple days.
Well, you know, double-edged sword, really. I mean, I kind of dig being on the road. Santa Monica, even though it's kind of rocking in a lot of aspects, is still California. It's not really city life, and it's not really, I don't know. I just like being busy. You've
been a performing artist and songwriter for 3.5 decades, and we identify you as one of those more prolific and identifiable writers. Your melodies and your lyrics, your attitude, all embody the John Waite styling, and we're really interested to know how you decided that you wanted to be a writer, a songwriter.
Sure. Interesting, yeah. Well, I was raised in a very musical family. My mum played the piano. My brother was in a band by the time he was about 13. My dad loved classical music and music hall songs, you know. So I came up around music. And my cousin Michael was a banjo player and a guitar player that was playing in bands before it was actually fashionable to be in bands. So I was surrounded by music and American music, really, especially, I guess, with my cousin Michael. But I was listening to Buddy Holly and Hank Williams and Brenda Lee, Elvis, etc., by the time I was about 7. So it was just a natural extension of that. The curiosity of it was how to put all that meaning into, like, 3 lines of lyric. And straight back to literature. You go back to literature continuously and hear a line in a poem or a bit of Shakespeare or Byron, and you go like, God almighty, that's it. But then you'd hear Hank Williams, and you go like, yeah, God almighty, that's it. So it didn't really matter where it was coming from, but it was the knowledge and the way you could turn something on its head in a few lines.
Right.
And it would mean more than a few lines. It would have meanings to everybody, and it could look flat from somebody's standpoint. But to the right person, it would be loaded with meaning. And I like the fact that you could talk in secret, really. You could talk in code. And I was pretty shy as a kid. I was very shy, really. And that went into my teens and early 20s. And I was a bass player in bands, and I would edge up to the mic and occasionally try and sing one. But I was always fascinated by songwriting and held it in really high regard. I went to art school. I was going to be a painter.
Wow.
And after 4 years of that, 4 years of putting paint down on canvas or designing posters in that 60s kind of movement, 70s movement, it wasn't fast enough. It just wasn't fast enough. I'd have an idea, and I couldn't get it down fast enough. The idea would drift away, and my technique would stop it being a statement. I couldn't get to it fast enough for it to have the meaning and spontaneity of the original thought. And singing did. I mean, so you could, even if you weren't, I mean, I never thought of myself as a great singer, but I always thought that if it's faulted, it would be human. And if it's human, it's believable.
Right.
And everything has, and when you have singers that really try and hit every note in the book and they use vibrato and they sing with an operatic style, I think that's absolute fucking crap.
Yeah.
I think that's just overblown and grandstanding and very self-important. But if somebody sings from the heart, it's going to touch somebody and going to listen from the heart, and that's the whole point. So keep it simple if you can, but don't be afraid to approach dark areas, and it has to be brave on some level.
But how do you tap into that as a writer, or is that the only way that you know how to write?
That's the only way. There's only one way of doing it. And it's how I talk, and it's how I deal with people, and how I listen to people. There's a lot of different versions of the truth. Depends. It's very subjective. But in a situation where something is screaming at you that this is how it really is, like in politics, everybody knows that the government is completely whacked.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that the opposition party is completely whacked, and they're trying to sort of hammer out some sort of deal where they can take the credit. Meanwhile, the entire population is in strife. Everybody in the population knows they're in strife.
Yeah.
And they're starting to call it as bullshit. But there is only one truth, but it's subjective too. But I think if you call things for what they are, people are going to sort of look up from what they're doing and recognize it. And I think that's what a songwriter does, or a writer does. I
see that you write a lot with Shane Fontaine and Anthony Cruz.
Yeah.
Do you bring them in per project, or is this something that you guys are...
No. If I'm making an album, like on the last album, me and Shane had written a song called Hanging Tree about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And he came in to do a session on the record and played on a song called Further the Sky, which is an outside song by Gabe Dixon. But to say thank you to him, I said, let's do that song we wrote, now stick it on the record too. And you can, make some money out of it. It's a beautiful song, it should be on the record.
Yeah.
Let's just record it. And with Anthony, I've written with Anthony a lot, but it's generally because he's been on those records. If there's a guitar player in the room, I tend to write with him.
How did If You Ever Get Lonely co-write with Kyle Cook come about?
Well, my manager at the time, Jim Marza, had found this song called If You Ever Get Lonely. And it was a Nashville song. It'd been written a long time ago, and he lost the actual CD of it. It was on his desk for about 2 years, and he lost it. But he kept playing it when he found me. He'd say, listen to this. And it was this song that's pop. It was very pop. The verses were very much not anything I would go near. The melody sounded like British pop, Little Cat Stevens, and the theme of the song was about a girl going to Hollywood. And the guy was singing this thing, but baby, if you ever get lonely, here I am. You go and spread your wings kind of thing, and I'll be here when you get back. I wouldn't ever say that to a woman.
Right.
I changed the lock.
Yeah. I guess you did.
Yeah, but I love the chorus. And every time we got to the chorus, I'd look at him, and he'd look at me, and I'd go, this is so great, And I think he has great taste, Jim. He was the guy that guided me through the records to go in and play him some songs. Go, what about this? He'd go, yeah, or leave that out, or try for this, or, and he'd give me some blank sort of statement about I watched it, and I'd go away and come back with the songs. And me and Kyle had finished working together, and we, one night, I said, here, look, I got this song that Jim really likes. What do you think of this? And I played him it, and he was saying, yeah, it's a hell of a chorus. But we both thought the rest of the song was just wrong.
Right.
I mean, it had nothing. And I played the beginnings of a verse, it's about the telephone conversation. Thanks for calling. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah.
And I took it on to that tip where if the guy was in a house all by himself on a summer night trying to live his life, and the phone rings, and it's some girl hitting the speed dial by accident, or she's drunk out with her friends, and she just wants to say hello, and she rings up just to sort of, for something to do, really.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone, and it breaks your heart to hear her voice. And I thought that was interesting. That she rings up, and you're trying to be like, yeah, great to hear from you. Whoa, yeah. But inside, you're dying,
Yeah.
You're crippled, and she turns a knife in you when she talks to you. And I thought, and then go to the chorus, if you ever get lonely, you can't help but say it at the end of the conversation. It's before you go. I love you, And I thought that was really just hardcore. I thought that was just, it touched me. And Kyle was great. I put in a couple of lines, he put in a couple of lines. He got it right off the bat. And we rewrote the thing basically from scratch and just kept the chorus. But, I take my hat off to the person who wrote that chorus. It's that thing about I ain't missing you, It's of course, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I was trying to write the opposite of what the chorus was. Without irony in love songs, there's generally it's obvious, it's journey or whatever. It's just what it is.
I think you commented on one website that I saw that you felt Nashville had a sensibility, the way they make their albums, they make an album of singles. And to me, Rough and Tumble, you feel this is the attitude as well, that you picked singles.
It was an accident. It was me and Kyle wrote 4 songs that we loved. And then there was another song, Peace of Mind, that I'd written with Mark Spyro years ago that I loved called Peace of Mind. And while I had Kyle in the studio, I thought, well, this is really not what people expect. This will jar everything we're doing. Let's do it. So we could. It was 5 songs done, you know. And then I got this phone call when I came back from Europe saying, can we have some more of that? We'll probably get a record deal faster if you write more songs. Because it was going to be an EP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was walking around for 3 months totally pissed off. I didn't know what to do. I talked to Alison about it. She said, you know, do whatever you want to do. And I thought, well, I'll do some Louvin Brothers songs. That'll upset everybody, you know. And then I thought, no, that's inappropriate. It would break the theme of the other 5 songs to go unplugged and dark. Although I did work with Hanging Tree. But I went back and looked through my files, looked what I had that was unrecorded, and picked a couple of things that we could update. I wrote Rough and Tumble with the guitar player the day before I went in the studio. Not the lyric, but all the music. And I just pieced together 7 more pieces of music. We cut it all in 3 days, and away it went. But we wound up with these songs that had been sitting in the background. They all turned out to be kind of singles. So it was a complete accident. The album's a fluke.
Well, this brings me to my next question for you. You kind of touched on it there. Your process of writing. You know, you just said you put a bunch of music together, you came up with about 7 pieces. Are you a melodic or a lyrics first guy, or is it you just get inspired by what the music is dictating?
No, it's both at once. It all comes out at once. Generally, pretty much like it's going to be finished. There's lines that I just can't touch and I stop singing or whatever, that I come straight back in. If I get a title, if somebody plays me a guitar lick, I could probably write an entire song around it. But I'd sing, if they start off in F, I might go to a B, or a B flat, or some sort of suspension, just to make it so when we go back to the F, it's going to be really interesting.
Right.
But I do things that it's like a kid would do it. Give a kid a set of building bricks, and he'll come up with something weird, like green, yellow, and blue, and, you know, and the next kid will do the same thing. But the order of something, if it's more abstract, is much, much more interesting for a songwriter.
Do you do a lot of writing by yourself at times? Do you find that that's more...
Yeah.
Creative for yourself?
I do that.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, I woke up this morning thinking about a song I wrote called I'm Ready, that it was a bonus track on the When You Were Mine album.
Okay.
And I wrote that along to it's a folk song, a British kind of English-Irish folk song about reincarnation, about coming back as a tinker on a country road, and then a war-damaged prisoner coming back from the camps in Germany and being born again into another life. And that's a subject to keep touching on, reincarnation. But that would be difficult to touch that with any of the writers, you know. But then again, that's what Hanging Tree is about on the new album that I wrote with Shane. So I love to work with people as sounding boards. And if they play any odd voicings of chords, you're going to get a song immediately, you know.
Right.
And I'm also lazy, so I need to be kicked in the arse to get to work, you know.
I think anybody who's creative needs that.
You know, I would be prolific if I had a studio in my house, but I don't want to take it home with me.
I get it. I'm going to go back a couple years to Temple Bar. The track Downtown, when you wrote that song, were you questioning your artistry or John Waite as an artist, or was that just something you had to get out as a writer?
What I was trying to approach there was complete truth, or whatever, the reality of being in a big band like Bad English.
Right.
And you go home. You know, at one point you're a product, and then you go home. You shut the door, and there you are.
Yeah.
And my life was more concerned with what happens when you shut the door. I loved New York City, and I was living there, and I'd been there for about 18 years. And it was my life in New York City. That entire record was written about midlife crisis or New York City or whatever. But I was trying to get to the truth of it, you know, and reach into that really dark country sentimentality fearlessly. There's another song on the next album, When You Were Mine, called Masterpiece of Loneliness, that had that same kind of unrelenting sadness in it. So, well, Jesus Christ, when you've had a lot to drink and you've got a pistol or something, what are you actually going to say to the world? You know, I'm not trying to write pretty pop songs for anybody. And I don't want to be in a band that does that. And I've been lumped in with all the other idiots that are like, you know, arena rock bands. But that isn't my reason for doing this whatsoever. And a lot of people get it, and some people don't. And it doesn't bother me. I'm very glad to be allowed to live in this bubble that I live in and do what I do, you know.
And so obviously you feel comfortable crossing or blurring the lines of pop, rock, and country. Like a figure in a landscape, there's a lot of modern country texture to that.
Well, there's a lot of country, believe it or not, in Temple Bar, but it's made in a contemporary way with baritone guitar and a lot of acoustic, but it's a rock album.
Right.
But that was about 6 years before the country thing took off. I was trying desperately to push into any kind of new field, but I've always had a really strong affinity for country writing. I mean, Dolly Parton writing Coat of Many Colors or Appalachian Memories, that's heady stuff. And Johnny Cash, you know, Cry, Cry, Cry.
Oh, yeah.
I Walk the Line. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's American poetry. Hank Williams, That's So I Could Cry, is right up there for me with Walt Whitman. I mean, that's about as strong as you can get as a working man singing about the world he sees in front of him. There's no pretension there. It's a cry for help or a cry of joy, but it's a cry. It's an honest one. So that's what concerns me, and I don't see any of that in rock and roll. Today, it's just homogenized shit turned out to sell to a lot of people and sell them a T-shirt and sell them a very overpriced beer and charge them for parking when they come and see you. It's part of a huge industry, and it's got nothing to do with expression.
I am curious about your outlook on the climate of music and the climate of artistry, you know, these days. I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I was in pop bands and had success at times, and the industry has completely changed, and I appreciate the fact you recognize that, but you're speaking freely about it because it is just a bunch of homogenized shit.
Yes, it is. But right now, as we speak, there's somebody in the East Village in New York City or in a small town outside Michigan or in Ohio putting on an acoustic guitar or noodling with a synthesizer, and they've got a phrase in their head and a way of looking at it that's going to knock everybody sideways. And it isn't corporate, and it's not done for the money. It'll come out there styling like a wildcat. And it's going to take the banner of Bob Dylan or whatever you think is the real McCoy, and it will come through, and it will make us all look stupid, and it will redirect music. That's always going on. You can't avoid businessmen, and that's what the music business is. You can't sort of whimper about the music business and be in it. It's full of people that you don't want to have dinner with, you know. But there's always going to be young artists coming up who've really got the stuff, and they didn't go to drama school, didn't go to cowboy school, they didn't go to any kind of school. They're kind of, they're the real thing, and they're angry, and they're edgy, and they're going to prove some point to you.
That's what our website is about. That's what Songward is about. I mean, we actually handpick artists that we discover on the internet, and we try to bring them to the world. You know, all of it for us is based around songwriting and their expression and their truth and their delivery. That's what kind of got us on this path to start connecting with people like yourself that we feel are just true. They're real artists. They are the blood and veins of what music is for us.
Man, it's so important, and some of the best music in the world has come out of America. I mean, African-American music, like blues. Without blues, there's no rock and roll.
Oh, exactly.
Country, which is indigenous to this country. Country music and blues, they're both indigenous. Jesus, you don't get them anywhere else. You can tell. You can speak to somebody by changing the chord on a piano, and it can change how you think about something.
Right.
That's a melody or words. It's like Thomas Newman. He's a guy who writes soundtracks for films. Marvelous films. He's a relation to Randy Newman.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's fabulous, right? I mean, he kills me. And he's writing classical music. But you can really tell when somebody's got that kind of energy in them and clarity and the need to get it across. And we need it in the civilized world. We need it like we need the next breath of air. It's what makes us all feel and propels us forward and engages us and enhances what we're doing. Music is everything. It's as important to take music out of schools. It's like taking food off the table. It's that wrong, you know? And the capitalist system, first thing to go are the arts, you know?
Yeah, I know. I'm here in Florida, and they've pulled arts funding from the education system, and my father was a music educator, both in college and in grammar schools. When they started pulling the programs, I mean, my dad just gave up. It was like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Nobody gives a shit. And they're educating the kids that it's not important, but it is important to have the creative freedom and expression in themselves. That's what creates the individual, the character, like yourself and myself. That's what makes us individuals, how we express ourselves.
But maybe to a hardline government, maybe that isn't the kind of citizens they want.
It's not.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, it's like the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
It's like all these businessmen on Wall Street wrecking the world and then being bailed out, and they're all back wrecking the world again, foreclosing on mortgages left, right, and center.
Yeah.
It's just the way of the world. But, hey, I'm sure that one day the world will do a completely huge turnaround and it'll be back to arts and crafts. You would hope.
What are you listening to these days that inspires you?
On the tour, we listen to Howlin' Wolf quite a lot. I think Howlin' Wolf has got some stuff going on. Buddy Guy, I listened to that the other day in the airport. Alison Krauss's new album, Paper Airplane, I listened to that. I listen to singers, really. Steve Marriott, Brenda Lee, Johnny Cash, Robert Plant, Rod Stewart, Paul Rogers. I mean, anybody that can sing that's got that soul, I'm interested in. I don't care if it's jazz or bluegrass. I've started to really like swing music for some reason, like the String of Pearls, Glenn Miller.
Oh, it's incredible music.
Yeah, it's sexy as hell. That's sexy stuff. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be sung to be great. I mean, it's the choice of notes and the arrangement,
Yeah.
I mean, Plato said that music can change politics, and I think that just about sums everything up.
I think you're right. I've got nothing to say on that. I agree.
That's a real capper, isn't it?
It is. That's a fantastic capper. John, thank you so much for joining us today, man. It's really an honor.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much. See you soon.
For more information on John, please visit his website, johnwaite.com, and check out his latest release, Rough and Tumble. Don't forget to join the songwriter.com. Welcome to Songward.com's exclusive artist interview series, One-on-One. I'm your host, David Elliott Johnson, and I recently had the great honor of interviewing artist and songwriter John Waite. His career has spanned over more than 3 decades. His vocal styling has defined such iconic and classic bands such as The Babies and arena rock chart toppers Bad English. His solo career and musical achievements have identified him amongst the who's who of pop music history. With his early MTV hit Change and the undeniable 80s compilation staple Missing You. I was able to catch up with John on a day off the road for promoting his newest album release, Rough and Tumble. So join me as I get a peek into the wit and wisdom of legendary musical artist John Waite.
Is this the right number?
Yes, you did, John. This is David Johnson with Songward. How are you?
David, how you doing? I'm a bit early. Is it all right, or should I ring back?
No, this is good.
Okay. I just have nothing to do. I was here in a shopping mall, and I just thought, well, you might be up for it. So here I am.
I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's taken a couple of days to get to this.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm sure it's nice to be back home off the road for a couple of days.
Well, double-edged sword, really. I mean, I kind of dig being on the road. Santa Monica, even though it's kind of rocking in a lot of aspects, is still California. It's not really city life, and it's not really, I don't know. I just like being busy.
You've been a performing artist and songwriter for 3.5 decades, and we identify you as one of those more prolific and identifiable writers. Your melodies and your lyrics, your attitude, all embody the John Waite styling, and we're really interested to know how you decided that you wanted to be a writer, a songwriter.
Sure. Interesting, yeah. Well, I was raised in a very musical family. My mum played the piano. My brother was in a band by the time he was about 13. My dad loved classical music and music hall songs, So I came up around music. And my cousin Michael was a banjo player and a guitar player that was playing in bands before it was actually fashionable to be in bands. So I was surrounded by music and American music, really, especially, I guess, with my cousin Michael. But I was listening to Buddy Holly and Hank Williams and Brenda Lee, Elvis, etc., by the time I was about 7. So it was just a natural extension of that. The curiosity of it was how to put all that meaning into, 3 lines of lyric. And straight back to literature. You go back to literature continuously and hear a line in a poem or a bit of Shakespeare or Byron, and you go God almighty, that's it. But then you'd hear Hank Williams, and you go Yeah, God Almighty, that's it. So it didn't really matter where it was coming from, but it was the knowledge and the way you could turn something on its head in a few lines.
Right.
And it would mean more than a few lines. It would have meanings to everybody, and it could look flat from somebody's